This is a radio shark on a pirate satellite, baby. And we're going to get into maybe my favorite Frank Zappa album, maybe not, but certainly one of the most fucked up Zappa jazz. I mean, this man, Frank Zappa, literally invents. It's almost like he's inventing jazz the way it should be, but it's not even jazz. It's Zappa jazz on the Grand WAZOO. This incredible album right here, you guys. And back in the day, you know, when I bought this vinyl, I had to play this a few times to, well, first of all, Waka Jawaka is the album before this, which is one of my favorite Zappa albums. It's just really fucked up, like acid jazz, but of course Zappa doesn't know acid. He doesn't know drugs. This guy's totally sober. That's the thing I love about Frank Zappa. This genius needs no drugs, no marijuana, no acid, no coke, nothing, no alcohol. All Zappa does is drinks coffee, smokes a lot of cigarettes, and makes incredible albums like the Grand WAZOO. Now, this album takes Waka Jawaka from 1972, and it's like expands upon it. Every one of these songs here is much more complex and arranged, if you will, than Waka Jawaka. Now, Waka Jawaka is the album that I feel is where Zappa becomes Frank Zappa. Even though before that album, Frank Zappa was incredible on like 8 or 9 albums before. This album here is actually with the Mothers of Invention, but it's not the original Mothers, you guys. You know, Jimmy, Carl Black, and all those guys are gone now, and he's assembled a new band. But I can kind of see and understand why Zappa did what he did. He wanted to find an incredible new inventive sound. And on Waka Jawaka, you know, 1972, he did that. But on this album, also from 1972, you guys, this is from later on in the year, he perfects Waka Jawaka, that album, with this album, the Grand WAZOO. These are long pieces of music. I want to call it jazz, but Zappa is inventing like a whole new style here. This, whatever this is, this sound that Zappa does, it is jazz, but it is such fucked up jazz, you guys. It is totally an invention of something, a sound that is new with all these instruments, horns, you know, pianos, guitars, bass, drums, all these, like, I don't know, cellos, sax, trumpets. I mean, just tons and tons of stuff here. Do I like this album more than Waka Jawaka? No. To me, they're equal. I can't like something more than Waka Jawaka, man. That album is phenomenal. But this album definitely is its equal. But this album goes beyond that album, as it is extending beyond that album. It is a creative force. It is certainly an extension of Waka Jawaka. And 1972 was an incredible year for Frank Zappa. Right here on the Clark the Shark Show, 1-800-449-8255. He actually recorded this from a wheelchair, because he was attacked on stage at some gig back in 71, December 71 at the Rainbow in London. Some sociopath attacked Frank Zappa, man, kind of like the idiot that attacked John Lennon. That ain't cool, man. Going after a genius while he's perfecting his craft on stage, you know, honing his art for all of you. I wish the crowd just would have beat the shit out of that guy that attacked Frank Zappa, and I'm sure they did, or I hope they did, or whatever. But man, what a douchebag who attacked Frank Zappa on stage and hurt this guy and put him in like a wheelchair. He was unable to tour, man. But, you know, it's kind of a blessing in disguise because Waka Jawaka and the Grand Wazoo, both incredible jazz, fucked up jazz albums. I can't really call this jazz because Zappa is inventing and creating a whole new style of music. I guess it is jazz, but it's so fucked up, dude. You've heard of Zappa Dan? You know, KXLU has Zappa Dan. Well, right here on Sharkadan, I'm talking about Zappa Jazz because he creates just this new shit on this album. And side one, you know, for Calvin and his next two hitchhikers, you know, 605, man, of fucked up Zappa, you know, just really fucked up. Incredible, you guys. I just want you to buy this album. And it's so technical. I mean, once again, it's got Ainsley Dunbar on drums, so you know it's brilliant. But with all the horns and just all the shit, it just is a brand new, totally brand new reinvention of jazz. But it isn't jazz, man. It is jazz fusion, but it's like big band or progressive rock. And of course, the Grand Wazoo, 13 minutes of just fucked up, weird shit, you guys. You got to hear it. I can't really describe it. There is singing sort of intertwined, mingling throughout all of this album, you guys. And of course, side two, though, is I love this, the third song on the album, but the first song on side two, you know, I could never pronounce it, but I fucking love it, man. It's actually like, you know, kind of a good sounding song, could almost be on the radio. I'm not kidding you guys. And then Eat That Question, which of course is classic Zappa, man. Fucked up, 642. Progressive. It is progressive rock and it is jazz, but it's some other style that only Zappa can do. I mean, and Blessed Relief. Once again, an 8-minute excursion of Zappa dynamics. I mean, I love Ainsley Dunbar and the weird changes and the progressive rock stalls and, you know, rests and accents are all over this. The drum fills and just all these, just like Waka Jawaka, you guys, all of these people, man. You know, everyone matters in the band. Everyone is important. Everyone, but especially Ainsley Dunbar, who's one of my favorite drummers, you know, and there's just so many people. There's, you know, woodwind. I love the woodwind, flutes and oboes and saxophones and, you know, just brass. Tons and tons of shit, you guys. I can't describe it. It's it's too fucked up, you guys. This album is so fucked up. The Grand Wazoo, it invents and creates a whole new style beyond Waka Jawaka. And I said Zappa becomes Frank Zappa on that album, but you know what? He becomes Frank Zappa even more on the Grand Wazoo, 1972. This album that I got at, I got this at Go Boy Records. I don't think I got this at the Rhodium in Torrance. I bought this down in Redondo Beach, and I got a really good copy of it, and I used to play it to death. The Grand Wazoo. And these songs are probably not as melodic as Waka Jawaka, but they're better in that the accents and the drum fills and just all the shit that's going on here, man. This kind of takes me back to like Uncle Meat, or you know, the album where it's got like Ray Liotta looking guy like shaving, you know, like Weasels ripped my flesh. Like the Grand Wazoo kind of goes back to that, but much more fucked up and much more technical and perfect and brilliant than that. Every Frank Zappa album gets better than the one before, and everyone doesn't get more commercial. It just gets more weird. And I always wondered if Frank Zappa had more little ideas, you know, like little, I wish he would have done more little songs, you know, like back with the Mothers, you know, songs like Motherly Love, you know. He should have a hit song on every album, but he doesn't. He's too busy fucking up your brain with Zappa Jazz or whatever the fuck he calls it, man. And the Grand Wazoo, this album, you have to buy this. You have to listen to this. Even if you're not into jazz or progressive jazz or jazz fusion, forget all that. You listen to this because Clark the Shark from the Golden EIB Sharkerphone at 1-800-449-8255, I told you to buy this album at Spotify, iTunes. Listen to it at YouTube. I mean, just listen to this shit so that Frank Zappa's lame kids can fight over his royalties and fight over his endorsements and, you know, what little meager money they're making daily from for the Frank Zappa estate. I'm just so bummed out that God took away this man from us, you know, way back in 1993 or whenever it was, man, because it's sad that Zappa is gone. I really think Zappa would still be here today in 2023, and he would still be making music if he hadn't smoked, you know, 3 or 4 packs a day. You know, he always said cigarettes were his favorite vegetable. And that's so sad, man. I don't like cigarettes. I don't like marijuana. I don't like drugs. I don't like acid. I don't like crack or cocaine or any of that shit. And neither did Frank Zappa, you guys. This man was always sober. And you have to be sober to make incredible albums like the Grand Wazoo, 1972 by Frank Zappa. Listen to Waka Jawaka and this album, because these are Clark the Shark's 2 favorite Frank Zappa albums. But no, maybe not, because the next album after this one gets even more incredible, you guys. He keeps blowing your mind. Don't ask me how, but there's more and more sauce coming out of the ketchup bottle that is Frank Zappa. I mean, he hits you with an incredible album that you can't believe, that is technical, that is jazzy. Nobody can play it, man. You think Black Page is technical. This album is technical, you guys. But Waka Jawaka is technical. All his albums are, you guys. Nobody can play this shit. Joe Satriani and Steve Vai and all these incredible musicians can barely play Frank Zappa. And everything Frank Zappa writes is written down in music. This guy knew how to read and write music. He was not a hack like me, Clark the Shark from GE, or like most rock musicians are who don't know how to read and write music. Frank Zappa did, you guys. This genius knew what he was doing. And he knew what he was doing with the Grand Wazoo, this fucked up, amazing jazz fusion, Zappa fusion album, you guys. And I want you to buy it. And I want you to listen to it every night. I want you to listen to this album even more than Waka Jawaka. And once you put this album, lay in the bathtub, soak in a hot bath, and listen to this whole CD, you guys. Don't bring a vinyl into the bathroom, man, and shock yourself. Fuck that. Listen to a CD player and listen to some Frank Zappa. Waka Jawaka, 1972, but even more so, the Grand Wazoo, 1972. If you want to hear long songs that are technical, I can't even describe them, you guys. But if you know Frank Zappa, you know only Frank Zappa sounds like this. Right here on the Clark the Shark Show. I'm Clark the Shark. And you just got the word, the testimony, the gospel, and the only review of The Grand Wazoo by Frank Zappa, 1972. An incredible album, and I want you to buy it. And when you buy it, don't just buy it. Listen to it. Try to find the vinyl if you can. Of course, you won't find an original vinyl of this from the 70s. If you do, God bless you. I'm sure you can find them online. Make sure you find the analog vinyl, not the digital. But, you know, digital vinyls and digital CDs sound just fine. You know, they do. Don't listen to douchebags like Dave Grohl or, you know, Eddie Vedder. Fuck that, you guys. 1-800-449-8255, The Clark the Shark Show. You listen to me, bro, and you listen to Frank Zappa at 1-800-449-8255 on The Clark the Shark Show. And I'm out of here, people. Peace.